I'm Melanie Farkash with Psychic Grannies. Frank. My children were going to Lanark Elementary School in 1977, and I met two kids that were the same age and sex as they were. One day after school, I was waiting for them when a lady asked me, "Are you Tammy's mom?" I said I was, and she said she was Renee's mom, Louise. The girls started having a play day after school from that time on. Louise and I got to be good friends and found out we had a lot in common. Louise was English, as were my mom and brother, and we loved the same things, like English china and tea. One day they invited our family over for dinner. In the dining room, I couldn't help notice a beautiful china cabinet. I put my hands on the cabinet and I saw a vision of a living room with a brown couch near it and a lovely table. I said to Louise, "This is not your cabinet." She said, "No, it was my mother's." I asked if her mom had a brown couch. She said, "Yes, it sat next to the cabinet in her house." I smiled and Louise looked at me like there was something wrong. That was the first time I ever used psychometry. At dinner, we talked about everything and anything. Louise then brought out an old box. She asked if I had ever used the Ouija board. "No," I said. "What is it for?" She put the box on the table and opened it. There was a board with letters and numbers on it. Then she pulled out a black circular object which sat on what looked like nail points. "My," I said, "this looks like something one would ask questions." She laughed and said I was right. We sat down and put the board on my lap. She put the black object on the board, placed the tips of my fingers on the edge of the object. She asked the question, "What's your name?" The black object moved around the board, stopping at M-E-L. That spelled my name. I thought, "You are subconsciously doing this." So she took her hands off and asked another question. "How old are you?" The black object moved to a 3, then a 2. "Wow, did I do that?" She laughed and asked, "Ask it anything." So I said, "Is anyone in this room besides Louise and myself?" The black object spelled out Y-E-S. This was fun. I told Louise to put her hands back on the object. "Who is it?" I asked. The object spelled out F-R-A-N-K. Louise was taken aback and asked, "Frank, how do I know it is you?" The object then spelled out Happy. Louise jumped up, told me to put the thing away and left the room. I followed her into the den and asked, "Who are Happy and Frank?" She looked at me with a tear in her eye and said, "He was my sister's husband who died 6 months ago, and Happy was Frank and Queenie's dog." On that note, I got my family together to leave. Louise gave the box to me and said, "You should have it. You know how to use it." On the way home, Jerry asked, "What happened back there in the dining room?" I said, "Nothing really. Louise and I were just fooling around with this game, and she gave it to me because she said I know how to use it." Jerry laughed and said, "I think she just realized you're a psychic." The following weekend, I had Louise and her family over for a barbecue. The men were out back talking and cooking. The kids were in the den playing. All of a sudden, the kids were yelling and screaming, so I got up to see what was wrong. My son was bent over with his hands over his head as though to protect himself from something. He was yelling, "Stop, stop." I looked at Tammy and asked, "Who has been hitting Ken?" The kids yelled out, "Frank!" Louise asked me if I had been using the Ouija board. I said I had used it a couple of times, but nothing really happened. I realized I had let Frank into my home by playing the game. It was really a window into the spirit world. This is an example of a Ouija board. The Ouija board was created in the late 1800s. It consists of a board with letters of the alphabet, numbers, words, yes, no, and goodbye, and some mystical symbols. A pancetta, or a felted-footed triangular piece of plastic with a pointer, moves around the board when hands are placed lightly upon it, theoretically spelling out words and messages.